There is a law in this universe that nothing can break. Not a star, not a black hole, not a god, not the most advanced civilization that has ever existed. The law is simple. Anything that uses energy must leak heat. Build, think, conquer, survive, and you glow in the infrared. Which means a galaxy crowded with gods should burn across the sky like an open furnace. So scientists aimed their telescopes at 100,000 galaxies and went looking for the heat. What they found inside that silence is far more disturbing than finding nothing at all. And it has a name. For 70 years, the search for other minds in the dark has rested on one assumption, that if someone is out there, you will hear them. So humanity built dishes the size of stadiums and aimed them at the stars, listening for a whisper, a signal, a broadcast, a hello carried on radio waves across the void. And for 70 years, nothing answered. Out of that silence grew the most chilling explanation ever written, and it came from a novelist, not an astronomer. It is called the dark forest. Imagine the cosmos as a forest at night. Every civilization is a hunter, moving without a sound. You cannot know if the figure in the distance is a farmer or a soldier. You cannot know if they are gentle or starving or terrified of you. And in that uncertainty, there is only one rule that keeps you breathing. Never let yourself be seen. So the smart ones go quiet. They switch off their beacons. They smother their own light. They learn that the loudest civilizations are the first to die, and the ones who survive are the ones who said nothing at all. It is a beautiful, terrible theory. It explains the silence perfectly. It tells you the sky is empty not because no one is home, but because everyone who is home is holding their breath. And for a long time, that answer was enough. The hunters are hiding. Stop shouting into the dark before something out there hears you and comes. But there is a crack running through this theory, a flaw so simple that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Because hiding your voice is one thing. Hiding your heat, that is something no hunter in any forest has ever been able to do. To understand the flaw, you have to understand a man named Freeman Dyson. In 1960, he asked a question that sounds insane until you sit with it long enough. A civilization grows. It hungers for more energy, always more. First it burns wood, then coal. Then it splits the atom. But a planet only ever catches a thin sliver of its star's light. The rest pours out into space and is lost forever. So Dyson imagined a species that refused to waste it. One that built a shell of solar collectors around its entire sun. Billions of panels, a swarm so vast it drank in every ray the star produced. A structure like that would harvest the power of 1 trillion reactors. It would let a civilization do almost anything, compute without limit, expand without end, edge towards something close to immortal. But Dyson saw the price. And the price is the whole story. Because that energy does not vanish once you use it. The second law of thermodynamics is the strictest sentence nature has ever written. And it says this: every time you do work, some of that energy escapes as heat. You cannot recycle it. You cannot trap it forever. You cannot hide it. A star wrapped in a swarm would stop shining with bright visible light and instead glow in the infrared. A deep, low, invisible warmth, like the heat rising off a road hours after the sun has gone down. And Dyson understood what that meant. To find an advanced civilization, you do not listen for its voice. You look for its waste heat. A hunter can hold his breath in the forest. He cannot stop his own body from being warm. So the astronomers went hunting. And this is where the silence stops being comforting and turns strange. A team at Penn State launched a survey with a name that reads like a horror title: Glimpsing Heat from Alien Technologies. They took the entire infrared map of the sky and pulled out 100,000 galaxies. Not stars, galaxies, each one holding hundreds of billions of suns. They were hunting for a single galaxy that glowed too red, too warm, A galaxy where some civilization had spread from star to star until it was draining the light of the whole thing. If even one such empire existed across those 100,000 galaxies, its waste heat would have screamed out of the data. The result came back. Out of 100,000 galaxies, not a single one was lit up the way a galaxy-spanning civilization would have to be. The lead researcher said it without flinching. Civilizations that command an entire galaxy do not exist anywhere in the nearby universe. Then the hunt came closer to home. Just 2 years ago, another team fed 5 million stars into a machine, fusing 3 of the most powerful sky surveys ever built, training a neural network to catch the faint thermal fingerprint of a half-finished Dyson swarm. 5 million stars. The filter cut and cut and cut again, and at the very end, 7 survived. 7 points of light, every one of them a small red dwarf, every one glowing with an infrared excess that nothing natural seemed able to explain. For a moment, it looked like the heat had finally been found. 7 candidates, 7 possible machines wrapped around 7 distant suns, and hanging over all of it was the exact question burning in your chest right now. What if even one of them is real? For weeks, those 7 stars carried the weight of the oldest question our species has ever asked. If even one of them was a true Dyson swarm, then everything changes. You are not alone. Something out there has crossed a threshold you have not. So other scientists did exactly what science demands. They tried to kill the candidates. They swung other instruments, radio telescopes, toward those 7 red dwarfs, searching for some ordinary explanation hiding behind them. And one by one, the explanation arrived. Behind several of those stars, sitting in almost the same patch of sky, was a far more distant object, not a machine, a galaxy. A specific, monstrous kind of galaxy. A hot, dust-choked thing, swollen with infrared light pouring out of its own dying core, billions of light years away. The warm glow that looked like alien engineering was that galaxy, photobombing the data from the deep background. The heat was real. The source was not the one anyone prayed for. The 7 candidates did not shatter all at once. They eroded, quietly, the way most cosmic dreams die. Not with proof, but with a better, boring answer. And you are left standing exactly where you started, only colder. Because now the comforting story is gone. Sit with what just happened. The dark forest told you the sky is silent because the hunters are hiding. But heat is not a choice. A civilization can refuse to broadcast. It cannot refuse the second law. If the galaxy were truly full of advanced minds, building, computing, surviving, their waste heat would bleed into the infrared, whether they wanted it to or not. You would never need them to say hello. You would only need them to be warm. And the surveys looked. 100,000 galaxies, 5 million stars, the most sensitive heat maps humanity has ever made. The infrared sky is quiet, not because someone switched off a transmitter, but because the furnaces were never burning in the first place. And that leaves you facing 2 doors, and both of them are terrible. Behind the first door, they are not there. No hidden hunters, no sleeping empires. The silence is real, all the way down, which means something stops civilizations before they ever grow large enough to glow. A filter, a wall, a force that ends every story like ours before it ever learns to wrap a star in metal. And if that wall is still ahead of you, you are walking toward it right now with no idea how close it is. But there is a second door, and behind it stands the strangest idea in all of modern science. One that says the galaxy is not empty and the hunters are not hiding. They are simply asleep. And the reason they are sleeping is the part that should keep you awake tonight. In 2017, 3 scientists published a paper with a title lifted straight out of a horror story, "That is not dead, which can eternal lie." Their idea rests on one brutal fact about thinking itself. Every calculation a mind makes costs energy, and pays for it by dumping a little heat. But here is the part that breaks your intuition. The colder the universe around you, the cheaper that price becomes. Right now, the cosmos is warm, flooded with the light of countless stars. It is a wasteful, expensive time to think. But the universe is cooling. Slowly, across spans of time you cannot hold in your mind, the stars will die, the dark will deepen, and the background will sink toward absolute zero. And when it does, a single stored reserve of energy could buy a multiplier. Trillions upon trillions of times more thought than that same energy could ever buy today. So a truly ancient civilization would do the rational thing. It would gather everything it could reach, and then stop. It would go to sleep, not hiding, waiting. Because the wisest move a god can make in a universe still this young and this hot is to do absolutely nothing at all. Sit with that for a moment. The reason the sky is silent might have nothing to do with death. It might be patience. Somewhere out in the dark, the great minds may have already finished their exploring, already built their machines, already learned everything a young universe has to teach them, and then powered down to wait for an age that has not arrived yet. An age long after the last star has guttered out. An age that belongs to them and never to you. If that is true, then you are not living among the ruins of a dead galaxy. You are living inside its loud, bright, wasteful infancy, the single era the elders chose to sleep straight through. And every signal humanity has ever flung outward, every dish aimed into the void, every desperate hope of saying hello, has been a child shouting in an empty house, while the adults sleep in a room you have never found, behind a door you cannot open, dreaming in a cold you will not live long enough to feel. There is a law in this universe that nothing can break. Anything that uses energy must leak heat, and the galaxy is not leaking. So either the furnaces went out before they were ever lit, or they have been banked low, glowing faint, hoarding every last ounce of fire, saving it all for a darkness still billions of years away. 2 doors, 1 silence, and you do not get to know which one you are standing in front of. Not in your lifetime, not in 1,000 of them.